Thanks for joining us. In our first story, the police has begun investigations into circumstances leading to the death of 3 family members at Chopoli in the Ningo Pram district of the Greater Accra region. According to the police, the victims, made up of father, mother and a 3-year-old son, were shot and burned to death Thursday evening. Their bodies have since been moved for further investigations. Adum FM's Isabella Ave visited the scene and gave us this account earlier.
So we had information around 5:30 a.m. that a family of 3 had been burned to death at Chopoli in the Ningo Pram district. We rushed to the place, and information we gathered indicates that the disease goes from Lepo Huno in the Ningo Pram district. The man is a livestock farmer, but according to the Chopoli Nyegbenya police commander, Chief Inspector Emmanuel Entry Asari, one Abraham Tomate rushed to the police station around 7:45 p.m. on Thursday to inform them that he received a call from someone at Zuchupo, also in the Ningo Pram district, that the deceased, Kwao Oman, 50 years plus, the wife, Deli Tete, 40 years, and their son, 3-year-old, had been burnt to death in the man's white Nissan pickup with registration number GW89700V. About 100 meters away from their house. The unknown, according to the police, the unknown gunmen shot them and burnt them on top with a gun suspected to be pump action gun on their way home when they went to fetch water from a nearby village called Seglemi.
So,
at the moment, we are at the scene. We are at the scene at the moment, and the police.
Okay.
And the bodies are still here in the Benz Nissan vehicle. The police.
Still on the story, Pram Divisional Police Commander ACP Roger Doji suspects murder. He spoke to Bernice Abubedu Lanza on News Desk.
We are still waiting for the crime scene to come so that we can leave the bodies to the police hospital mortuary. We don't want to disclose anything now. We are gathering some info, it's like in connection with land, farmland, and other petty issues concerning cattle rearing. That is the information we are gathering now. The man is a cattle farmer, rears cattle, and owns a lot of cattle in the community. He also engaged in crop cultivation. A hard-working gentleman in the village, known in the community. And it's like, yeah, he's hard-working, as I said, and I don't know, some, let's say, envy here and there concerning farmland and also concerning the cattle he reared. We don't want to say anything now so that we can gather more evidence.
Elsewhere, 2 suspected armed robbers have been gunned down by the Wa police during a shootout this morning. One of the suspects, 22-year-old Fatal, who is described by the police as a notorious criminal, is standing trial for other alleged criminal cases in courts in the region. Upper West Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Police Service, Inspector Gideon Boateng, narrated the incident to Joy News. Before we hear from the police, let's get more from correspondent Rafiq Salam. Rafiq, tell us more about this robbery.
It happened this morning during the wee hours. It happened around the Nakore Senate Road. According to the inspector, talking about the public relations officer of the Ghana Police Service. Hello?
Rafiq, you're on there?
Yeah, he told me in an interview with me, he told me that what actually transpired was that there were these policemen who were riding on a patrol with a motorbike at dawn. They spotted these 2 persons who were riding a motorbike with a goat in between them, and then they had, tied the mouth of the goat to prevent it from bleeding so that people wouldn't notice.
Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Rafiq Salam there. We'll try and re-establish that connection with him so we can speak to him further about this issue. So what we are going to do now is we'll take you to the Wa municipality where this particular incident occurred. Rafik was just a moment ago taking us through exactly what the issue is, but there has been a national crackdown on crimes where close to some 374 persons have been arrested in the past 2 days. Rafik is back with us on the line. Rafik, you were taking us through the events that led to the shooting.
Yes, I was saying that, there were some 2 policemen who were on a night patrol on a motorbike, and they spotted these suspected armed robbers also on a motorbike with a goat sitting in between the 2 of them. And so, the goat, the mouth was tied to prevent it from bleeding so that the people or the public would see what is really happening. And so, on seeing these police personnel who were on patrol, they opened fire at them, and then the police also returned fire, resulting in the 2 suspected armed robbers being gunned down. And so they were quickly rushed to the Wa Regional Hospital. But what is missing at the moment, or what the police are not able to get, is the 2 pistols that were used by the suspected armed robbers. And so currently, as we speak to you, the police are at the scene of the crime, and so they are now looking for these 2 pistols. But at the moment, I'm also been told by Inspector Gideon Watson that the 2 are in stable condition at the Wa Regional Hospital, and they will be arraigned before court when they are discharged from the Wa Regional Hospital.
Rafik, was any policeman injured?
According to Inspector Gideon Watson, none of the 2 police personnel were injured during the attack.
But this was a shootout, according to the police, where the suspected armed robbers actually shot first.
Yes, it was fire for fire. It was the suspected robbers, armed robbers, who first opened fire on the police, and then also the police also returned fire. And so the police were lucky, according to Gideon Boateng, Inspector Gideon Boateng. They were lucky, and then none of them had any injury.
But even in their luck, they can't find the guns. So according to the police, this is a shootout where none of them were injured, and they can't find the guns the suspected armed robbers used.
Because it's on a section of the road, and then the place is bushy. So the thinking is that they might have, they have thrown, or they are alleged to have thrown the pistols into the bush. And so that's the section of where the police are, and they are combing around the area to look for the pistols.
Thank you very much, Rafik Salam, for that update.
Thank you very much.
We move to other areas, and President Akufo-Addo has hinted government intends to issue a white paper on the Justice Short Commission report on the violence that marred a by-election. The Ayawaso West Wogon by-election turned bloody as national security operatives clashed with supporters of the opposition NDC, with a member of parliament assaulted in the process. The government tasked former Shraj Boss Justice Emil Short to lead a top-level 3-member commission to probe the matter. Here's a recall of events so far.
Multiple gunshots heard at the scene of an otherwise peaceful election. An MP was assaulted in the process. Masked gun-wielding men, believed to be part of the National Security Secretariat's SWAT team, were accused of brutalizing innocent civilians. Government set up a commission to probe the matter, but contradictions and varied accounts would emerge.
Later, they also said they heard gunshots coming from within the compound of the house. Our boys then gave some 6 warning shots.
There were many, my lord.
Many?
If I'm not mistaken, they were holding them. If I'm not mistaken, it will be over 20 per what I saw.
Okay. And were you able to find out the source of these empty shells? Who had, fired these gunshots? The empty shells that you saw, were you able to detect?
I inquired, but the information they gave me was that they were fired by the task force team that came there.
I saw them point directly into the crowd, in the direction of the crowd, and fire.
So they fired the warning shot. This made them to retreat and started to run helter-skelter.
For the angle, I don't know for warning shot, but mostly once it's targeted at this one, for warning shot I know mostly it should be up. So once it's targeted at an object below the height of maybe a normal human being, then I don't see it as a warning shot.
And therefore you conclude that they were potentially aimed?
They were
not aimed at a tree, but aimed.
I may say so.
The commission concluded its work and submitted its report to the president on March 14. Article 283 of Ghana's constitution requires the president to cause a publication of the commission's report together with a white paper within 6 months. If the president decides not to do so, he must give reasons. For now, the scars of the violence still remain.
Somebody is over there now enjoying. He just shoot me. He wanted to shoot my life. I have a family, wife and children. Now business, anything is not going on. How should I go to look my family now? Once this committee is for justice, please, I want justice must be.
That was one of the victims of the violence ending that report. President Akufo-Addo yesterday hinted that government will issue a white paper soon.
Multiple gunshots heard at the scene of an otherwise peaceful election. An MP was assaulted in the process. Masked gun-wielding men, believed to be part of the National Security Secretariat's SWAT team, were accused of brutalizing innocent civilians. Government set up a commission to probe the matter, but contradictions and varied accounts would emerge.
Later, they also said they heard gunshots coming from within the compound of the house. Our boys then gave some 6 warning shots.
There were many, my lord.
Many?
If I'm not mistaken, they were holding them. If I'm not mistaken, it will be over 20 per what I saw.
Okay. And were you able to find out the source of these empty shells? Who had, fired these gunshots? The empty shells that you saw, were you able to detect?
I inquired, but the information they gave me was that they were fired by the task force team that came there.
I saw them point directly into the crowd, in the direction of the crowd, and fire.
So they fired the warning shot. This made them to retreat and started to run helter-skelter.
For the angle, I don't know for warning shot, but mostly once it's targeted at this one, for warning shot I know mostly it should be up. So once it's targeted at an object below the height of maybe a normal human being, then I don't see it as a warning shot.
And therefore you conclude.
Apologies for bringing you that same sound bites there. We'll bring you that sound later. Let's go back to that WAM shooting, and we've been joined by the Public Relations Officer for the police in the Upper West Region, Inspector Gideon Boateng. Inspector, thank you very much for joining us. Inspector, thank you very much for joining us. Right, we'll soon be established contact, with Inspector Gideon Boateng. Inspector, are you on air? Right, Inspector Gideon Boateng, are you with us? Unfortunately, we seem to have lost contact with Inspector Gideon Boateng. We'll soon re-established contact with him. But this is really within a wider context of an increased crackdown on criminal activities by the police in the past couple of days. Inspector Gideon Boateng is with us on the line. Good afternoon, Inspector Boateng. Well, pardon me, we seem to have a challenge with our phone lines. And I was saying earlier, though, that there have been crackdowns on crime in 5 cities across the country since yesterday. 4 cities, pardon me. There was one at Gomwa-Budumburam in the central region near Accra, actually. There was also one in Takrade, there was one in Tamale, and we're learning of another one in Sunyani this morning. A total of 374 persons were picked up by the police in the 3 cities mentioned earlier, apart from Sunyani this morning. Here in Gomwa-Budumburam near Accra, some over 100 persons were picked up by the police. That swoop started at about 3 a.m., where you saw the police going into people's homes and looking for any contraband material like narcotic drugs or weapons. And then they realized then that if you have something like that, they will take you to the police headquarters. We'd have to move on from the story for now. We'll re-establish contact with Inspector Boateng and we will bring you that interview. In the meantime, the people of Manhia, Joma, Nsakina and adjoining communities are calling on the Assembly and government to fix what they describe as the miscarriage-causing and vehicle-damaging road. Thursday's rain has caused further damage to the already pothole-ridden road. Joy News' Latif Idris engaged some of the passengers in a commercial vehicle that has become scarce in the area because of the poor nature of the main Manhia stretch.
The people of Manhia, Joma, and Sakina are asking the usual question they've asked over and over, but this sound a bit louder as to whether they belong to the very Republic of Ghana. The road is so bad, the rain last night has even made it worse. Many are stranded by the roadside because most of the commercial vehicles that ply this route have abandoned it. Simply put, it causes a lot more damage to their vehicles than the profits they make when they ply the road. The sentiment is common when you speak to the people of Manhia, in Sakina, and those who live in the adjoining communities here in the Gan West municipality. And you have a condition like I do, it brings it all back.
Madam for me, Madam for me, I have a person that's around by me, I don't care for my packet over. Senya, you pay on your pan. The arm found them and went down at them. Say, I'm feeling fine, but I'm a rented pan there. Casino, Twitter, Canon, password. Oh, linking our Cancel the rules in our Seneca, a penny finger there. Oh, yes, yes. Body noise. A man on tongue camera. Once of breath. Oh, yeah. Massa, who do you only have that to say as a quinine? But it's going to say the house private car and we have to issue. I saw packed. No sooner tea. It's only tea I can almost say, so I feel that.
Thanks for staying with us. We go back to the Upper West region where the Inspector Gideon Boateng, Police PRO for the Upper West Region Police, has joined us. Inspector, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Inspector, walk us through the events that led to the shooting.
It's all about based on police personnel were...
Inspector, I'm sorry, but it seems like you're in a very noisy place. If you're in motion, can you please stop? And
hello?
Yes, there's a lot of noise in the background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm in a car.
Yeah, do you mind parking for us to have this conversation?
Hello?
Inspector?
Yes, please.
Yes, please go ahead with the narration.
Okay. It happened at about 3 o'clock this dawn. Information that you got. It happened at Nakori, a suburb of Wa here, that 2 known criminals to the police over here, one Nabil Fakin and then one Fatau, were on a motorbike with 2 goats that they tied to their mouth with a sellotape, and they were driving and riding towards Wa town, a snitch area there, and then police signaled them to stop, but they refused. So the police used the motorbike to chase them. The policemen were also on their patrol motorbike. Signaled them, they refused, and they started firing and at the police, and the police also chased them and fired, and they sustained gunshot wounds. But I speak to you now, they are at the hospital and they are being attending to treatment. By the close of the day, if they are healed, then we'll bring them to book as a result of after investigation.
Do you know which part of their body they were shot in?
The lower part. We have to disarm the person, then we have to get the person down before. Perhaps they are not the only people, as we know them to be notorious around here, and they may help the police or assist police to arrest other accomplices, and therefore they are there. We are hoping that they will be healed on time, and then they assist the police in the investigation.
I understand one of them, Fatau, is actually a wanted criminal?
Yes, please. Not even one of them. The 2 of them, they are on our list. And
so they are known wanted criminals?
The Fatau is the one that is known to people, but we don't know. In our records, we have them.
I understand the police can't find the guns they used.
Pardon?
I understand the police can't find the guns that these 2 gentlemen used.
As of the morning, 6 o'clock, I had my information. The personnel were deployed from the command to go and look at the places where they started firing. I believe they threw them into the bush. Police was searching for the arms. As of morning, 6 o'clock, I was leaving the office for a meeting. So I believe by close of the day, we will find them.
Isn't it curious that 2 men who were carrying guns and started shooting at the police managed to lose their guns?
Pardon, please.
I'm simply commenting that, or asking that, isn't it curious that 2 men who were carrying guns and were firing at the police now have the guns missing?
They did what, please?
You described that they were firing guns at the police.
Yes, please.
I'm simply wondering how those guns went missing at a point. At what point did the guns get missing?
Yeah, when police was giving them, the police motorbike was chasing them, signaling them to stop. Then they started firing at the police, and the police also fired, and it was
and they were wounded. So after they were wounded, how did they lose the guns after they were wounded?
Yeah, but the police patrol, the motorbike patrol teams called for reinforcement, and the pickup was deployed. The patrol team was deployed there, and then they had them. And
no, Inspector, I was asking, how did they lose their guns? What happened there?
How did they lose the gun?
Yeah, how did the suspects lose their guns?
They realized that police was chasing them, and therefore they have to find their way out. So unless they are being held and we investigate and we know from them.
Inspector, from the briefing, if I may ask, from the briefing you have from your officials?
Now, as we have started fresh investigations, I believe if you can give me some time for me to position myself in my facts so that we can pursue.
Right. Thank you very much, Inspector Gideon Boateng, for joining us. He speaks for the Upper West Regional Police. Away from that story, days after her speech was impaired from the trauma of suffering sexual abuse at the hands of two self-styled pastors for 4 months, 18-year-old Precious has begun psychological therapy. Her father told Joy News last week she was threatening to take her life. But that has changed after her first session with a therapist. Komla Adum has more in this report.
As soon as you start talking about that thing, she becomes wild. She now easily gets angry. She wrote something which was a little bit disturbing. I gave it to the doctor that she feel like taking her life.
A desperate father of an abused 18-year-old speaking up about the fears of a girl who was kidnapped and raped by two Nigerian men. The experience of a 4-month-long ordeal was eating her up.
They took me around.
From one place to another?
Yes, but they never gave me access to anybody, to the people, or to phone or anything. They followed me anywhere, anything I want to do. They spoke for me. They told people at that place that I was their girlfriend, but they never allowed me to speak. So anytime I eventually try to speak, they send me back and they beat me up.
While the family struggled to cater for the medical bills of a girl who reportedly had severe injuries in her private part due to the abuse, Precious's speech was impaired.
We are taking treatment at the Kwalabu Teaching Hospital, where at the same time she has to be going to a flower because of the police case, court case, shuffling up and down, and this it creates a lot of problems.
She became aggressive and violent at the least provocation, calling for justice to be served.
What I want is that justice should be served. They shouldn't just go scot-free. You see, when they go scot-free, it will continue repeating itself again and again and again, and nobody will be saying anything about it.
Days on, a group of clinical psychologists and psychiatrists have moved in to offer their services to the victim free of charge. Precious met Reverend Father Anthony Amponsa and his team for the first time as a long journey to recovery begins.
She was talking in a way I didn't like. For example, she said for her, she has the chance to kill all men, and speaking, in a way that disturbed me. I was still in a dilemma as to what to do because the way she was behaving, I didn't like it. Fortunately, the psychologist called and he came. I was surprised. He came all the way. Oh, may God bless him. And after they met for over almost an hour, but I didn't think she was calm. He talked and, make her feel better that it's not a loss. You cannot take your life. You cannot condemn all men. So I think I'm grateful, and I believe it's going to happen into the days ahead.
The two suspects currently in custody, George Andrew and Maxwell Peter, are expected to reappear at the Keta Circuit Court on Monday after investigators pleaded for more time to carry out some probe at the crime scene. But even before the court hearing on Monday, women's advocacy group Women in Law and Development in Africa, WOLDAF, wants mandated state institutions to ensure such victims of abuse and their families are protected as stipulated by law.
It is very important that domestic violence and victim support units should do more for victims and survivors of domestic violence by giving psychological support to victims that comes to them. Not just the victim, but the victim and the family to better deal with the trauma and help the parents or the family to also help the victims or survivors' journey in recovery.
Though it may appear a long road, Precious should come out of this stronger. She would not be left alone.
Encouraging story coming in there.